Hare Krishna 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 Rama 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 Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Bhagavata Shri
Krishna Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Rama Rama
Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyev cha patidanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, assembled devotees ki jai. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi, welcoming all of you to Bhakti Sangha conference call. Please forgive me for interrupting your ecstatic chanting. May I know who all joined this morning?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. This is Neetu from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna Neetu Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining and giving your association every single day. Welcome to the call.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisance of Srila Prabhupada and all the summit devotees. Shashidhar joining from Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Shashidhar Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining every day and chanting so beautifully. Welcome to the call.
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Mehak, I am from India.
Hare Krishna Mehak Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining in. Is this the first time you are joining Mataji?
No Mataji, I've been joining often, but it's very on and off. I hope I can continue it every day.
Yes, Mataji, we look forward for your association every single day. Thank you, Mataji, for joining in from India. Hare Krishna, welcome to the call.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga and all the assembled devotees. Yashomati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna Yashomati Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining every day and chanting so beautifully. Welcome to the call.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam. This is Sudhata from India.
Hare Krishna Sudatta Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining in. Welcome to the call. Is there anybody who would like to introduce themselves? Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Always Srila Prabhupada. This is Sudevi.
Hare Krishna Sudevi, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to the call and beautiful chanting.
Hare Krishna Mataji. This is Ravichandrika from India, Hyderabad.
Hare Krishna Ravichandrika Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining in from India. Welcome to the call.
Vinita Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada, this is Preeti Vilasni Devidasi from Atlanta. Thank you Mataji.
Hare Krishna Preeti Vilasni Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining in and all glories to your wonderful services. Welcome to the call.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, Jai Shri Radhe.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to the call. Okay, we'll start the recording here. Hare Krishna everyone, welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call. Today we will start the call with reading Srila Prabhupada quote. 7th June, any nonsense you do and if you say it is the latest fashion, everyone will do. June 7th, 1975. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So today we are very fortunate to have His Grace ArjunSakha Prabhu to enlighten us on the topic of Caitanya Bhagavat, Madhya Khanda, Chapter 1, 247 and 48 verse. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhu, for joining in and giving your valuable time and association this morning and enlightening us on the topic of Caitanya Bhagavat. I now hand over the call to you. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji, for that very kind and warm welcome. And thank you so much, devotees, for joining for our today's reading of the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. And also, Mataji, is it possible for you to do the screen share? Because I'm there on a different laptop. I don't have Chaitanya Bhagavat on this. So if you can...
Yeah, I will open.
In the meantime, dear devotees, let us chant the Mangalacharan prayers, seek auspiciousness from our spiritual superiors like Srila Prabhupada, and then get started. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamine Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadhi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Ananda Leela Maya Vigrahaya Hemavadivya Chavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Shri Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Nityananda Maham Naumi Sarvananda Karam Hari Nama Pradam Devam Avadhuta Shiromani Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Jai, Shri Nityananda Rama ki Jai, Samasta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Can we? Yes, thank you so much, Matari. So this morning we are reading from so we are reading from the Chaitanya Bhagavat. We are going to read from the first chapter, the beginning of Lord's manifestation and his instructions on Krishna Sankirtan, text 247 and text 248.
Vaishnava Avesha Mahaprabhu Vishwambara Krishnamaya Jagat Dekhaye Nirantara. In the mood of a Vaishnav, Mahaprabhu Vishwambar constantly saw Krishna present everywhere in the world. Do we have a purport for this? Or? Text 248. Aharnisha Shravane Shunay Krishna Nama Badane Bolaya Krishna Chandra Avirama. He heard the names of Krishna both night and day, and he constantly chanted the name of Krishna Chandra. This is a very, very long purport, but nonetheless, we will read it because we are only doing 2 verses today. Commentary, Gaudiya Bhashya by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada. Sri Gaurasundar exhibited the pastime of a Mahabhagavat Vaishnav and began to see everything in relation to Krishna. Ordinary materialists who have forgotten Krishna become bewildered by mundane knowledge, and instead of seeing everything in relation to Krishna, they see the entire world as a place of enjoyment. Mahaprabhu, however, did not set such an example by identifying himself as the enjoyer. Rather, he saw this animate and inanimate world, which is visible to the conditioned souls who are averse to and forgetful of Krishna, through the spiritual vision of a Mahabhagavat Vaishnav inclined to the service of Krishna. He began to realize the pastimes of omnipotent Krishna in the heart of every living entity. Therefore, since he had no temporary material conception like the forgetful materialistic conditioned souls, while realizing transcendental Vaikuntha Goloka everywhere, he was not obstructed by these opulences from seeing Krishna's pastimes of enjoyment and acceptance of service. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, chapter 8, text 274, it is stated, Sthavara Jangama dekhe, na dekhe tara murti, sarvatra hoy nija ishta deva spurti. The Mahabhagavat, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything, mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Sri Havi, one of the 9 Yogendras, speaks to Nimi, the king of the Videha, as follows. The most advanced devotees sees within everything the soul of all souls, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Consequently, he sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and understands that everything that exists is eternally situated within the Lord. Within the material world, one's material body is always subjected to birth and decay. Similarly, the life air, that is prana, is harassed by hunger and thirst. The mind is always anxious. The intelligent hankers for which cannot be obtained, and all of these senses are ultimately exhausted by constant struggle in material nature. A person who is not bewildered by the inevitable miseries of material existence and who remains aloof from them simply by remembering the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be considered Bhagavat Pradhana, the foremost devotee of the Lord. One who has taken exclusive shelter of the Supreme Personality of the Lord, Vasudev, becomes free from fruitive activities, which are based on material lust. In fact, one who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord is freed from even the desire to enjoy material sense gratification. Plans for enjoying sex life, social prestige, and money cannot develop within his mind. Thus, he is considered Bhagavottama, a pure devotee of the Lord on the highest platform. Birth in an aristocratic family and the execution of austere and pious activities certainly cause one to take pride in himself. Similarly, if one enjoys a prestigious position within society because his parents are highly respected members of the Varnashram social system, one becomes even more infatuated with himself. But if despite these excellent material qualifications, one does not feel even a tinge of pride within himself, he is to be considered the dearmost servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When a devotee gives up the selfish conception by which one thinks, this is my property, and that is his. And when he is no longer concerned with the pleasures of his own material body or indifferent to the discomforts of others, he becomes fully peaceful and satisfied. He considers himself simply one among all the living beings who are equally part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a satisfied Vaishnava is considered to be the highest standard of devotional service. The lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are sought even by the greatest of demigods, such as Brahma and Shiva, who have all accepted the Supreme Personality of Godhead as their life and soul. A pure devotee of the Lord can never forget these lotus feet in any circumstance. He will not give up his shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord for even a single moment. Indeed, not for half a moment, even in exchange of the benedictions of ruling and enjoying the opulence of the entire universe. Such a devotee of the Lord is to be considered the best among Vaishnavas. How can the fire of material suffering continue to burn the hearts of those who worship the Supreme Lord? The Lord's lotus feet have performed innumerable heroic deeds, and the beautiful nails on his toes resemble valuable jewels. The effulgence emanating from those nails resemble cooling moonshine, for it instantly relieves the suffering within the heart of the pure devotees, just as the appearance of moon's cooling light relieves the burning heat of the sun. Sri Caitanya Bhagavat ki Jai. So in this way, dear devotees, we find these are only 2 verses from the Caitanya Bhagavat of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur that we'll be discussing. And primarily, if we see, Vrindavan Das Thakur has made multiple points. In fact, Srila Saraswati Thakur has made multiple points in his commentary. In the interest of time, we may not have time to elaborate on everything. But one thing we see in text 247, Vrindavan Das Thakur makes this point that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is seeing Krishna everywhere, at all times, at all places, at all circumstances. And this is a mood that is often emphasized, or this is something that the devotees always hanker for, to see Krishna at all times, at all places, at all circumstances. Our state is such, we see Maya at all times, at all places, at all circumstances. To see Krishna everywhere, sthavara jangama dekhena dekhe tara murti, sarvatra hoy nije ishta deva spurti. To see Krishna at all times, our acharyas time and again explain, our Gurujan explains, Prabhupada explains that we have to take shelter of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan Dham, headed by Rupa and Sanatan. Rupa, Sanatan, Raghunath Das, Raghunath Bhatta, Jiva Goswami, and Gopal Bhatta. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. We have to take shelter of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Tadera charana se bhakta sanevas, janame janame hoye abhilash. Tadera charana se bhakta sanevas, janame janame hoye abhilash. For the devotees, the only aspiration and only prayer is to be a speck of dust at the lotus feet, not just at the lotus feet of other Vaishnavas, but also at the lotus feet of Rupa and Sanatan. Taking shelter of the 6 Goswamis primarily means taking shelter of the teachings of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, which means in the form of their books, in the form of their works. Without taking shelter of the books, without taking shelter of the works of the 6 Goswamis, it is very difficult to realize Krishna, leave alone seeing Krishna at all times. In order to see Krishna at all times, at all places, at all circumstances, the first fundamental thumb rule is to understand Krishna Tattva, is to understand the personality. Preeti na yavat mai vasudeve. Without preeti, without love, how can we see Krishna at all times? we can see that person. Oftentimes this example is given that a mother, even if she sees the slippers, if the slippers are then in the home, small slippers, the mother may see that and remember her child. The slippers are jada vastu, they have no life. But a mother's love is so much, even when she sees a jada vastu, she can impregnate life inside the jada vastu. Why? Because she has prem. She has priti. Priti na yavat mai vasudeva. Till the time there is no love, we cannot see Krishna at all times. So the first thumb rule is to develop love for Krishna, and love for Krishna can be developed by studying Shastra. And studying Shastra means understanding Krishna Tattva. Without understanding Krishna Tattva, without understanding the person, it's next to impossible to see him at all times. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the supreme personality of Lord himself. So for him, he can easily see Krishna at all times. But for sadhakas like us, we have to go through this process, the Vaidhi Marg of hearing about the Supreme Lord, studying Srimad Bhagavatam, studying Chaitanya Charitamrita, studying Chaitanya Bhagavat, reading the books of Prabhupada. When this is done on a constant basis, then there is a possibility of realizing Krishna and seeing Krishna at all times. For the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, there are 3 books that are very, very important. Bindu, Kiran, and Kana. Srila Rupa Goswami, when he came down to this world, wrote so many books. In fact, one session is less to discuss about Rupa Goswami's contribution. The amount of contribution that Rupa Goswami has done, probably no person in the whole Sampradaya has contributed so much. And that is why we proudly call ourselves as Rupanugas, followers of that Srila Rupa Goswami. So when Srila Rupa Goswami came down to this world, he wrote many books, but one of the prominent books that we take shelter of, which is one of the books even in the Bhakti Shastri, is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Prabhupada called it as the nectar of devotion. Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. Sindhu means an ocean. It's the nectarian ocean that teaches us the basic principles of bhakti. Now Rupa Goswami came and wrote Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur took one drop from this ocean and he gave his commentary. He gave a summary study on the essential topics of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and he wrote a book by the name Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. It's nothing but essential topics, touching upon the essential topics of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Srila Rupa Goswami. Likewise, after Rupa Goswami wrote Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami emphasized on all the 4 rasas, Shanta, Dasa, Sakhya, Vatsalya, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But Madhurya Ras, he did not emphasize much in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. For Madhurya Ras, Srila Rupa Goswami wrote another book. Can any devotee unmute and tell me what was the book that Rupa Goswami wrote to emphasize Madhurya Ras?
Madhurya Kadambini?
Ujjvala Nilamani, yes.
Ujjvala Nilamani.
Yes, Ujjvala Nilamani. Srila Rupa Goswami, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he speaks about Shanta, Dasa, Sakhya, Vatsalya. But for Madhurya Ras, he realizes Madhurya Ras is such a big ocean. It's an ocean in itself that it cannot be given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So he writes a separate book called as Ujjvala Nilamani. Ujjvala Nilamani. The Krishna is considered the blue sapphire, blazing blue sapphire, Ujjvala Nilamani. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur takes now Ujjvala Nilamani and sapphire, right? So sapphire means light. So he takes a portion of Ujjvala Nilamani and comments on that and gives it the name Ujjvala Nilamani Kiran. One ray of light coming from Ujjvala Nilamani. So first he comments on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and gives it the name Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. Then he comments on the Madhurya aspect and gives the name Ujjvala Nilamani Kiran. And then he takes the 3rd book of Rupa Goswami, that is Laghu Bhagavatamrita, which speaks about different plenary portions of Krishna, etc. And he comments on that and gives the name Bhagavatamrita Karna. And these three books are very important for the Gaudiyas. Of course, after reading Prabhupada's books. Asterisk, after reading Prabhupada's books. Terms and conditions applied. After we read Prabhupada's books, then these books are very, very important. Bhagavad, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu Bindu, Ujjvala Nilamani Kiran, and Bhagavatamrita Karna. We see that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was able to comment on the books of Rupa Goswami. Why? Because it is popularly accepted that Rupa Goswami again came down to this world in the form of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And that is why, just like Rupa Goswami was an erudite scholar and was very rasik, likewise Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was also very erudite and very, very rasik. So he primarily picked the books of Rupa Goswami. Why? Because he is Rupa Goswami. And he commented on that. If not for Rupa Goswami, most mysteries of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have been unsolved. Like we see in the material world, you have unsolved murder mysteries. Right? So many cases are there like that. Likewise, deep truths about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have been unsolved if not for Srila Rupa Goswami. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Rupa Goswami jumped into the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and extracted the deep truths for which Mahaprabhu came down to this world. And Mahaprabhu also empowered Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami jumps inside the heart of Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu also empowers him. Shri Rupa Hridaya Prabhu Shakti Sancharila Sarva Tattva Nirupane Pravina Karila. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowers and surcharges the heart of Rupa Goswami to such an extent that he gives so many deep truths about why Mahaprabhu had went into this world. But of these three books that we discussed, that is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, Ujjvala Nilamani Kiran, and Bhagavatamrita Karna. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Bhagavatamrita Karna very beautifully explains that Krishna, when he performs his pastimes, these pastimes are classified into two types. One is Aprakat Leela and second is Prakat Leela. Krishna, when he's performing his pastimes, goes to three phases. Every pastime that Krishna performs in this world goes to three phases. One is Balya, second is Paughanda, and third is Kaishora. Balya pastimes of Krishna are those where he is in his baby form with Maya Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, drinking the milk of Maya Yashoda, so on and so forth. Then you have the Paughanda pastimes of Krishna, where he is wrestling with Sridham, Subal, Madhumangal, Stoka Krishna, Ujjwal, Lavanga, Kinkini, Vasudam, Dham, so on and so forth. You have the Bhandirvan pastimes where Krishna is wrestling with them. In fact, when Krishna went to Mathura to kill Kamsa Maharaj, Krishna went and smashed Chanur and Mushtik and then dragged Kamsa to death. And after Kamsa was killed, our Acharyas very beautifully comment, after Kamsa was killed, Sridham Sakha came there, Krishna's dear friend. Sridham Sakha came there and he looked at the whole scene. And here was Kamsa down to the ground. Krishna's feet, or Krishna's foot, was there on the chest of Kamsa, and Kamsa was dead. And here was Sridham Sakha who came there and looked at the whole scene and looked at Krishna and said, "You cannot be my Krishna." Krishna said, "What do you mean? I am your Krishna." He said, "No, you cannot be my Krishna." Why? My Krishna is not so powerful. I defeat him every single day. In every wrestling match, I defeat him. My Krishna is not so powerful. You cannot be my Krishna. Krishna said, "What do you mean? I am not your Krishna. I am your Krishna. Don't you see it's the same complexion, Pitambar Dhari, Mor Mukut Dhari?" Sridham said, "No, you cannot be my Krishna." Krishna said, "What do you want me to do? How can I prove to you that I am your Krishna?" Sridham Sakha said, "Look, if you are my Krishna, let's have a battle. And the winner of that battle, well, the result will decide who is Krishna, and whatever the result is, we will see later." So Krishna says, "Okay." So they decide to fight. Kamsa's dead body is there close by. And here Sridham and Krishna start wrestling. They start punching with each other. And the Mathura Vasis are scratching their head. What is going on? Because all the Mathura Ramanis who are there were practically on their knees looking at the form of Krishna. And here is Sridham coming and challenging and even punching Krishna. So much so that our acharyas explain. Sridham Sakha punches Krishna and sits on the chest of Krishna and says, confirmed, you are my Krishna. Why? Because I could defeat you. My Krishna is not so powerful. If I am able to defeat you, it is confirmed you are my Krishna. Look at the love of the friends of Krishna. He has practically seen Krishna has killed Kamsa Maharaj, but still he's not convinced that he's my Krishna. Only when he defeats him, he's convinced, he is my Krishna. Why? Because I could defeat. So these are Khanda pastimes, where Krishna wrestles with his friends. And then you have Kaishora, where Krishna has his sweet Madhuryamai pastimes with the Braja Gopis. So Krishna goes through these three phases: Balya, Khanda, and Kaishor. Childhood pastimes or baby pastimes, childhood pastimes, and adolescence pastimes. One time, Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked Srila Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, what is the most important thing? Temple construction, book distribution, and this and that. He gave a very big list. Prabhupada, what is the most important thing? And Srila Prabhupada smiled and he said, the most important thing is to save yourself. This is the most important thing. First, save yourself. Janma sarthaka kari, kara paropakar. First, save yourself. And saving ourselves means studying Shastra. Saving ourselves means understanding Krishna Tattva. Without the anugrah, without the mercy of our superiors, it is next to impossible to understand and see Krishna at all places. And the primary form of mercy comes from our superiors in the form of Sri Guru. Sri Guru showers his mercy on his disciple. And when Sri Guru showers his mercy, that's when the jiva or the disciple can even hope or aspire to see Krishna everywhere. This mercy, dear devotees of Sri Guru, comes in three forms. First is called as Meena Vritti. Meena basically means fish. The fish have a tendency, it is generally believed, not science, but Shastra. Shastra accepts this fact that the fishes hatch their egg or nourish their egg by glands. Meena Vritti. They nourish their eggs by glands. So first form of mercy of Sri Guru is Meena Vritti, because he nourishes the disciple by his glands. He looks at the disciple and showers mercy. Gangara parasha hoile paschate pavan, darshane pavitra karo ei tumara gun. Darshane pavitra karo ei tumara gun. The living entity becomes pavitra. He becomes pure just by the glance of Sri Guru. And this is called Meena Vritti, because fish or fishes have this tendency of nourishing their eggs by glance. The second form of mercy that Sri Guru showers on his disciple is called as Dvija Vritti. Dvija means birds. Dvija, twice born. The birds are called twice born because the first birth is considered the egg and second is coming out from the egg. So they're considered twice born. So second form of mercy is called Dvija Vritti. Why? Because the birds that are there, they sit on the eggs. Many times we would have seen, especially in India. In America, it may not be a very common sight. In India, it's definitely a very, very common sight. Especially if you have your house and outside your house, you have AC, the window AC that you have. I remember when I was small, you have the window AC. And during summer time in the window AC outside, you will have pigeons and crows and they make all their nest. It's a common sight in India, may not be much in America. So you normally see the birds just sit on the egg and nourish. Likewise, Guru's second form of mercy on his disciple is Dvija Vritti, because he showers mercy by his touch. He embraces his disciple. And the third form of mercy that Shri Guru showers on his mercy is Kamata Vritti. Kamata means tortoise. So how does he shower mercy in the form of a tortoise? We see that Shri Guru is so kind that first he is showering mercy in the form of glance. Then he is showering mercy in the form of touch. And third, he showers mercy in the form of prayers or meditation. So it is called Kamata Vritti because tortoise, Shastra explains, have this tendency that they think about the eggs. And when the mother keeps thinking about the eggs, that's how the eggs are nourished, or that's how the children are nourished. Shastra explains. Similarly, Shri Guru meditates and prays for the disciple, and the disciple is showered with mercy. So 3 forms of mercy that Shri Guru showers on his disciple: Meena Vritti, Dvija Vritti, Kamata Vritti. Meena Vritti, like the fish, which means glance. Second is Dvija Vritti, which means by touch or embrace. And third, Kamata Vritti, like that of a tortoise, where he meditates or he prays for his disciple. Till the time Guru doesn't shower mercy in any of these 3 forms, how can the jiva expect to see Krishna at all times? Not possible. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a recipient of mercy of Ishvara Puripad, and this is why he could see Krishna at all times. Prahlad Maharaj was a recipient of mercy of Narad Muni, and this is why he could see Krishna at all times. Even in the 7th canto, it's very beautifully explained when Hiranyakashipu was tormenting Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj could see Krishna at times where it's next to impossible for anyone to remember Krishna. When he was put in a pit of snakes, Prahlad Maharaj says, "Oh, these pit of snakes, these are the bed of my father." Why? Because Vishnu sleeps on the bed of Ananta Shesh, who's snake. So when he's put in a pit of snakes, he says, "This is the bed of my father. So why should I be afraid of the bed of my father?" What high-class realization. We will be scared to even come face off in front of a snake. And here is Prahlad Maharaj is there in a pit of snake and is remembering the bed of his father. Even when he was put in fire, he says, "Oh, this is the mouth of my father." Why? Because you have Yagya Kunda and we put Ahuti, and that is considered the mouth of Vishnu. So he says, "This is the mouth of my father. That is the bed of my father. So why should I get afraid?" Krishna Das, Sada Bindas. He's always fearless. He doesn't fear anyone. Why? Because he has taken the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. This is what Saraswati Thakur explains. Bhajahu re mana Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Bindare. Bhajahu re mana Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Bindare. He has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, and that is why he is fearless. Even for Sri Ram, it is explained. Abhayam sarvada tasmai dadami etad vratam mama. Sri Ram gives a promise. Anyone who takes shelter of my lotus feet, I give them fearlessness. We are all afraid of something. There is always something there in our heart of which we are afraid. When does fear arise? Fear arises in the heart when circumstance is going to change. When you know something is going to change in your life, that's when fear arises. It can be anything, in the form of relationships, in the form of job, in the form of whatever it is. Whenever there is going to be a change, that is when we will experience fear. Bhayam dvitiyad bhinivesha tasyad ishad apetasya viparriyo smriti. The 11th canto of the Bhagavatam describes that Bhayam dvitiyad bhinivesha tasyad. Fear arises in the heart because of change, and primarily fear arises in the heart because our mind is absorbed on things that are devoid of Sri Krishna. Because when the mind is absorbed thinking about Krishna, naturally the byproduct is fearlessness. And this is what happened to Prahlad Maharaj. He was constantly thinking about Hari, and he was not just fearless, but he could see Krishna at all times, even in snakes and even in fire. When he was administered poison, this is the height. When he was administered poison, he said, what is there to be afraid of poison? This poison is my uncle. What do you mean is your uncle? He said, this poison is my uncle. Why? Because during Samudra Manthan pastime, so many things came out. The first thing that came out was poison. But in that, Lakshmi ji also came out. So Lakshmi is his father, is his mother, Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj's mother is Lakshmi. But in that same Samudra Manthan, poison also came out, which means the origin for poison and the origin for Lakshmi is one and the same, which means poison becomes the brother of my mother, which means poison becomes my uncle, and which uncle will do any harm to me? What level of realization is this? Prahlad Maharaj is able to see Krishna even in poison. He's able to see Krishna in fire. He's able to see Krishna in snakes. He's able to see Krishna at all times, at all places, at all circumstances. Why? Because there is constant absorption. This constant absorption comes by studying Shastra. Without studying Shastra, how can we connect the dots? When we see things of this world, the ability to see things of this world and connect that to Krishna consciousness, connect that to Krishna will come when we study Shastra. Without studying Shastra, how can we connect dots? All the personalities in the past we see, all of them were able to see Krishna at all times. Look at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Wherever he went, any water body that he saw, he would say, this is Yamuna, this is Yamuna, this is Yamuna. So many times. He would see trees and he would remember Vrindavan. He would see cows in Shantipur and he would say, oh, this is Vrindavan, cows are here. Constant Vrindavan consciousness. So Krishna, when he performs his pastimes, as we were discussing earlier, they are into two types, Prakat Leela and Aprakat Leela. Prakat Leelas are those Leelas that we can see through our eyes, but not necessarily we have entrance into them. Like Kamsa Maharaj. Kamsa Maharaj saw the pastimes, but did he have entrance into Krishna's Braja Leela? No. The prerequisites were not there. He could see them, but he did not have the prerequisites to enter. So that is Prakat Leela. And second is Aprakat Leela. A means a negation. Those Leelas which are still happening, but we cannot see through our eyes. Why? Because lack of spiritual qualification. Aprakat Leelas are those Leelas that are happening in the spiritual world, in Golok Vrindavan, where the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu aspire to go. Now, very beautifully, in Bhagavatamrita Karna, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, we are going little deeper into Krishna Tattva, because as we mentioned, without knowing Krishna, the personality, without knowing Krishna, the Tattva, how can we join the dots? It is great and it's good to take inspiration from Prahlad Maharaj, but to reach to the platform of Prahlad Maharaj, there is a lot of groundwork that needs to be done, a lot of Tattva that need to be understood. In Bhagavatamrita Karna, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is explaining that these three phases, that is Balya, Paughanda, and Kaishora, all three happen simultaneously in the spiritual world. Because different devotees have different inclinations. Now, please hear this carefully. Different devotees have different inclinations. Some may like Balya Swarup Krishna. Some may like Paughanda Swarup Krishna. Some may like Kaishora Swarup Krishna. Now, attraction cannot be forced. It is independence. Every person may get attracted to someone else. It cannot be forced. Love cannot be forced. Likewise, when we open Bhagavatam, some may like Damodar Leela very much. Some may like Davagni Pan Leela, forest fire pastimes. And some may like Gopi Geet, Venu Geet, Brahmar Geet, Yugal Geet, Viraha Geet, Pranay Geet. Some may like these sections. Every jiva has a particular inclination. And now Krishna is Bhavagrahi Janardana. He has to fulfill the desire of all his devotees. Being Krishna is not easy, dear devotees. Oftentimes people around, they call themselves as God. Bhagavan. But becoming Krishna is very difficult. It's good to be a devotee. We don't want to become God. Because becoming God is very, very difficult. So many devotees are there, and every devotee has a different taste, different heart's calling. And Krishna is so expert. He is able to fulfill all of their heart's calling. So these three phases in the spiritual world occur simultaneously: Balya, Paughanda, and Kaishor. Which means those who love Balya Krishna will worship and serve Balya Swarup Shri Krishna. Those who love Paughanda Krishna will love and serve Paughanda Swarup Krishna. And those who love Kaishora Krishna will love and serve Kaishora Swarup Krishna, all simultaneously. It's happening all simultaneously. It's way beyond our mental imagination. How much our mental gymnastics we do, understanding Krishna is very, very challenging. Now, when Krishna decides to come down to this world, Krishna comes down to this world once in a day of Brahma. Now, when he decides to come down to this world, he decides to make his aprakat leelas into prakat leelas. He decides to make the aprakat Golok Vrindavan pastimes into prakat Bhauma Vrindavan pastimes. Now, when Krishna is coming down to this world, we see Krishna is killing Putana, Shakatasur, Bakasur, Aghasur, Dhenukasur, Vatsasur, Vyomasur, etc. Now, when Krishna is coming down to this world, when he has to perform Balya Swarup pastimes, it is that Balya Swarup Krishna, Balya Swarup Aprakat Krishna, coming down as Prakat Balya Swarup Krishna and performs his pastimes. When that is done, he decides to wind up and gives way to Aprakat Paughanda Krishna. And now Balya Krishna goes back, Aprakat Paughanda Krishna comes down. Aprakat Paughanda Krishna is done, he goes back, and now Aprakat Kaishora Krishna comes down. Is Krishna aging? No. It looks as if Krishna is aging, but Krishna is not aging. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this is Krishna. This is why in Bhagavad Gita Krishna says, Janma karma cha me divyam. My activities are divyam. It is transcendental, beyond mental understanding. It looks as if Krishna is aging, but dear devotees, Krishna is not aging. Time is not acting on Krishna. Why? Because Krishna says, Kalosmi, I am time. If time acts on Krishna, time has to be superior. Time acts on all of us, but doesn't act on Krishna. So when we see Krishna's pastimes, that, oh, Krishna is 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, etc. It is not that he's aging, but it's a constant, high speed transition that Krishna does from Balya to Paughanda to Kaishora. Aprakat Balya becomes Prakat Krishna, Prakat Balya, who becomes Aprakat gives way to Aprakat Paughanda, who becomes Prakat Paughanda, who becomes then Aprakat Paughanda, then who gives way for Aprakat Kaishorya to become Prakat Kaishora, and he also becomes Aprakat. So there is a constant tug of war of Aprakat to Prakat to Prakat to Aprakat. And finally, when the Jiva becomes qualified, he gets access to the Aprakat Leelas of Krishna. And now when you become qualified, when the devotee becomes spiritually advanced, now those Aprakat Leelas become Prakat. So it may go a little over the head, but this is Shastra. This is Krishna Tattva. Understanding Krishna Tattva or understanding Krishna is very, very difficult. And when Krishna is coming down and performing these pastimes, there are changes that you will find in his pastimes, in his Prakat Leela and Aprakat Leela. They are not all the same. Like, for example, I'll give you a few examples. When Krishna comes down to this world, he appears in Mathura, and from Mathura, he goes to Braj. Now, this is something that is done in the Prakat Leelas, that is in Bhauma Vrindavan, in this world. It doesn't happen there. It doesn't happen there. It is something that is a classic characteristic only of this world, of Krishna appearing in Mathura and then coming to Braj. my worshipable spiritual master.
For them to get back.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, we'll wait for him to get back.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. There was some technical glitch. So I'm right now on my phone. Anyway, so we were mentioning as to how Srila Guru Maharaj was there at Los Angeles airport and he was about to enter the aircraft. And just before he was about to enter the aircraft, you see, you scan the boarding pass. And after you scan the boarding pass, then you go inside. So Guru Maharaj scanned the boarding pass, and then Gauranga Prabhu was there behind. So he also scanned the boarding pass. And Srila Guru Maharaj was waiting for him because doors were there, but there were no handles. And Srila Guru Maharaj asked Gauranga Prabhu, how do you open them? Because he, coming from Bihar, had not seen anything like this. There were no handles to that. So Gauranga Prabhu said, oh, Maharaj, this is sensor based. You just go close by and it will automatically open. Like we see many times in malls and many airports also, sensor based. You just go close by and it opens. So then they went by and it opened, and then they went inside the aircraft. And after they sat in the aircraft, Guru Maharaj looked at Gauranga Prabhu and he said, why is it that people have doubt